So we continue with the chapter skin. We are done with the first proper part of the skin, that is the dermis and the epidermis. And now we move on to the next part of the skin, that is the derivatives of the skin. The special derivatives of the human skin include the following: hair, nails, sebaceous glands, sweat glands, and mammary glands. We move on first with the hair. A hair consists of three parts: the hair shaft. You can see the figure over here in the on figure 13.1. Figure 13.1 contains the hair part. The hair ka part jo yahan pe hai, that is the one which is over here. This is the part of the hair. You can see they are made into three parts: the hair shaft, the hair root, and the hair bulb. So the hair shaft is the part which projects from the skin and may extend slightly above the surface of the epidermis. So the hair which is there, the hair which is on top of it, this is nothing but the hair shaft. It is above the epidermis. In normal situation, they lie obliquely on the skin. So they will find they are always in a sleeping position. They are obliquely, they are just sleeping. They are obliquely. Okay, normally they are obliquely there. But in case you are frightened, or in case, then there will be an erectile tissue over here which is going to push it up, and that's why the goosebumps, what we call it as, are going to be occurring over here. So this normally they are obliquely in nature. In normal situation, they lie obliquely on the skin. The second is hair root. It is a part embedded within the dermis. The lowest part of the hair root is expanded to form the third part, which is the hair bulb. The hair bulb, which contains a projection of the dermis called the hair papilla with blood capillary blood supply. The hair follicle is the structure enclosing the hair root. So the hair root has got a hair follicle. So if you see the figure, in the figure they are very well mentioned over here. So if this is the hair, so this over here is the hair follicle. So this part over here, this is the part which is called as the hair follicle. So the hair follicle is the part which is over here. This is outside part, which is the hair follicle. The hair follicle is the structure enclosing the hair root. So this is the hair root which is enclosed by the hair follicle. It is composed of an epithelial and a connective tissue sheath. The hair bulb and the hair connective and the follicle together are responsible for the growth and elongation for the hair. So it is the hair bulb and the hair follicle which are going to give rise to the growth of the hair. The growth of the hair occurs by addition of cells at the base which soon die. So the new cells added to this thing, and hence the length of the hair is going to increase, and they all are dead cells. So the hair inside, they are all dead cells. That's why when you are touching the hair, you don't feed it. See, when you feed it, because only if the root, that is the one, is getting the you can see the effect, if it is touching up to that point. But agar hath lagata hai, so many times you will not even come to know that the hair are being done. That's why some leaf or something falls on your hand, you don't even come to know that something has fallen on it. The hair follicle contains pigment cells that produce melanin. The color of the hair is due to the varying quantity of melanin. When melanin production decreases, hair become grey, silvery, or even completely white. So that's how the old person will be having white hair. That is because the melanin content inside the follicle over here reduces, and according to the hair, what will be growing will be white in color, or that's why they become grey or silvery in color. Everyone has sometimes experienced goose flashes. So that is what I just said, that these are normally inclined, but they even stand up. So that is during winter or during some emotion. In this, the hair is lifted, called piloerection. Pilo hair, and the surface of the skin presents a somewhat contracted and wrinkled appearance. This is caused by the erector, also called as the erector muscle of the hair, which runs obliquely between the hair follicle and the other parts of the dermis. The contraction of these muscles at one end pulls the hair to somewhat vertical position, and at the other end depresses the epidermis. So accordingly, it depresses there is a form of a depression formed in the epidermis, and the hair stands upright over there. So that is nothing but the goose flash, which is you must have experienced a lot many times. Hair is in human being are continuously lost and regrown. The duration of the scalp hair is 2 to 5 years. So the scalp hair is going to be there for around 2 to 5 years, and that of the eyebrows and the eyelashes is just 3 to 5 months. Hair from the different parts of the body, head, chest, armpits, beard, nose, etc., show subtle differences. These are helpful in forensic crime detection investigations. Hair also provide a sensation of touch because nerve fibers extend up to their bases. So they are ending up to the bases. That's why they are also going to give you some kind of sensation. That's why when you pull it, yeah, you feel the pain because there is the sensations over here. But yeah, overall, if you are cutting the hair, तो हेयर कट के टाइम पे हम लोग को दुखता नहीं है कुछ भी. Why? Because they are dead cells. There are hair along the edges of the eyelash to help prevent the entry of the foreign particles. Similarly, there are hair in the nose, again to prevent dust particles from entering nasal cavity passages. Facial hair in the human males, for example, mustache and beard, help in distinguishing the male sex, that is sexual dimorphism. So this is about the different areas of the where you can have hair and give a specific kind of a feature to you. The next kind of derivative is the nails. The nails are hardened keratinous plate-like structures which grow as dead cells from the nail root. So from the nail root, the nails are going to grow as a keratinous hard substance which lie below the skin at the base. When an open pore in the skin gets clogged with dead skin cells and sebum from the sebaceous gland, when an open pore in the skin gets clogged with dead skin cells and sebum from sebaceous gland, it black upon oxidation by the air. Hence, it is called as the blackheads. Okay. The nails has three parts. That is a plate. It is the hard and outer part of the nail. It is made up of dead keratinized cells. Bed, it lies below the nail plate, and the matrix, it lies just below the skin surface at the base of the nail. It is usually visible as a whitish half moon. You can see that normally thumb के अंदर या कहीं पे मेरे भी इतना ज़्यादा दिखता नहीं है, but yeah, here you can see a small white moon over there. That is half moon, which is on the base, which is the matrix. It produces new cells which on maturation push out the older cells towards the tip of the nail and causes growth of the nails. The next derivative is the sebaceous glands. These branch glands usually open into the hair follicle, though sometimes they even open directly to the outside. They give out an oily secretion called the sebum, which makes the hair and outer surface of the skin oily and waterproof to keep the epidermis supple and to prevent loss of moisture by evaporation. In cold and dry weather, the skin may become rough and leave a powdery surface when scratched. This is due to the reduced secretion of oil from the sebaceous glands. In hot and humid weather, the skin becomes extra oily due to an increased secretion of sebum. So, there are these sebaceous glands in the dermis part. These sebaceous glands, they are producing oily secretions. These oily secretions are normally given to the hair in the follicle. यहाँ पे दिया जाता है. So the hair will be giving out spreading it over there. So normally the sebaceous gland with the sebum will be giving the skin oily kind of a nature. So that's why we have normally three kinds of skins. That is normal skin, oily skin, and dry skin. You can see in a dry skin the sebum produced by the sebaceous gland is less, and that's why the skin is very dry. So if you scratch like this, there will be a white colored mark you can see. So that is because less amount of sebum is produced by the body. If it is oily, it will be be like sticky over there. and the normal skin. So that's how the sebaceous glands are going to be producing the sebum to give you the different kinds of skin, upper layers of the skin, which is actually a, you can say, a waterproof kind of a layer. But this also causes three problems. So first is the three common problems related to sebaceous glands. First is pimples. Okay, many of you must be experiencing this thing. You are getting pimples on your face. So that pimples are basically because of the accumulation of the sebum on the face. So sebum accumulation causes growth of bacteria because of its nutritive gets infected and results into the formation of boils and pimples. So if the sebum which is there, it is going to be remaining over there, it is going to accumulate over there, and it is going to cause bacterial infection and cause pimples. So if you keep your skin clean, the chances of getting pimples are definitely less. The second is acne. Sebaceous glands are inflamed due to the hormonal influence. It is one of the commonest problems in adolescence. So acne is slightly different from pimples. Again, there will be slightly boils, but these are due to the hormonal changes which is taking place in the adolescent area, in adolescent ages. So in this case, the sebum over here is going to be inflamed and there will be boil formed. So in this case, it is just the hormonal change. And finally are the blackheads. When an open pore in the skin gets clogged with dead skin and sebum, it turns black upon oxidation by the air and is called as the blackhead. So that is exactly what it was given over here at the bottom, wherein the blackheads, there are blackheads over there, which is nothing but a pore which is open, and there is going to be a dark oxidation. You know, there will be the skin cells in the sebum get oxidized and they become black and they form into blackheads. The next are sweat glands. Each sweat gland is a simple coiled tube consisting of deeper secretory part and excretory part, which runs upwards to open up to the surface. So there is a coiled shaped thing inside the dermis part, which is the sweat gland, and then there is a pore which is coming out with the tube which is coming right up to the top into the epidermis, and then there is a pore on top which is a sweat pore. So the excretory parts is the deeper part, which is the excretory part, and the upper part, which is the secretory part, is the deeper part, and the excretory part, which is at the top of the surface of the skin, and the outer opening is called as the sweat pore. The total number in the body is estimated to be about 2 million. Human race belong to hotter countries usually have more sweat pores than those belonging to colder ones. So the sweat pores, the number of sweat pores varies from 60 to 80 per square centimeter on the back to 400 square centimeter on the palms of the hands. So the palms of the hand, the sweat pores are more, but on the back and all, they are around 60 to 80. Can you guess why the sweat pores are more numerous on the palm? Of course, just due to the grip. Okay, we know that gripping is going to be there when it is moist. So, answer surface tension for grip. For the same reason, some people turn the leaves of the book on or count the currency notes by applying saliva on their fingertips. A dirty habit indeed, and unhealthy too. The secretory part of the sweat gland absorbs fluid from the surrounding cells and blood capillaries of the dermis and pass it into the excretory sweat duct, which pours it out on the surface. Sweating or perspiration goes on at all time in minute quantity, but are invisible, that is invisible perspiration, or sometimes in large quantities during strenuous exercises or during hot and humid weather. The major function of sweating is to lose body heat by evaporation. So the sweat glands are going to be continuously producing the sweat, and the sweat from inside is going to keep on coming up on the surface. But normally it is not being felt because it is very, very small quantity. So we call it as the invisible sweat. But when you are doing some strenuous exercise or when you are in hot sun, you're definitely going to sweat a lot, and that can easily be seen. So that is, and at that time, the main purpose of the sweating is to regulate the body temperature. So that, because when evaporation takes place of the sweat, it keeps the body cool. So that's why the cooling effect of the evaporation is going to be got by the evaporation of the sweat. So that's why the sweating is causing the reduction in the or giving a cool effect on the body. Sweat consists of about 99% water, 0.2 to 0.5% salts, mainly sodium chloride, and traces of urea 0.08%. The urea loss through the sweat is about 1% of the total urea excreted by the body. So the urea content is very less. It's just 1% of the total urea excreted by the body. So mainly it is the 99% water and around 0.2 to 0.5% salts. Cold sweat may be due to psychic influences such as a fright or nervousness. Sweating may also accompany nausea and severe pain due to the loss of body salts. So sometimes, if it is too sweaty, then it gives you body pain also, because it is going to lose. You are losing a lot of body water and the salts, and due to the loss of that particular thing, we normally get fatigue and pain. So that's why we normally see that if we are sweat too much, then we normally replenish ourselves with more amount of water, or even something like glucose and all, so that we replenish the salts which are lost by our body. The last derivatives of the skin is the mammary glands. The mammary or milk glands are modified sweat glands. These glands are present both in males and females, but in males they are persist only in a rudimentary state, so they are never going to be activated. They are just in rudimentary state. They are present, but they are never activated. Whereas in females, at puberty, when they enlarge in the form of pair of breasts. Each breast carries a central conical projection called nipple. 15 to 20 milk ducts open on the nipple. Each milk duct is continued inwards by a branching manner to join a cluster of 15 to 20 lobes of mammary glands. So mammary glands are modified sweat glands, and they are present on the chest, and normally for the males they are just going to be rudimentary. That means they are not going to be functional at all. But in case of females, when they are going to, as they reach puberty, the size, that basically the breast, they are going to form into breast, and they are going to be having, of course there is a nipple which are there on both, for males and females, both have got the nipples, but these nipples are having around 15 to 20 such mammary the openings and ducts, mammary milk ducts, and these are connected to the mammary glands which are behind, and these mammary glands produce or secrete milk after pregnancy or childbirth basically. So the activity of the mammary gland is related to the reproductive hormones prolactin and pregnancy. The milk secreted by the mammary glands is highly nutritious for the newborn baby. Meibomian glands, these are the modified sebaceous glands which open up in the margins of the eyelids. Their secretion is oily and serve to lubricate the margins of the eyelid and to prevent the overflow of the tears. So there is one more kind of a gland which is called a meibomian gland, and the next is ceruminous glands. Ceruminous glands, these are the modified sebaceous glands found in the auditory canal and secrete wax-like substance called as the cerumen or ear wax. So you must have seen that thing. So ear wax which is there is produced by the modified sebaceous gland, which is the ceruminous glands, which lubricates and protects the delicate eardrum from dust particles and germs. So these were the different derivatives of the skin. Now we see some we are told in the start part of the chapter, that is in the few functions of the skin, that main function is the heat regulation of the body. So how does the heat regulation of the body takes place? That is what we are going to see in the next part of the chapter. Skin and heat regulation of the body. All mammals, including humans, are warm-blooded, endothermal, that is body heat generated from inside. So are the birds. They all maintain a more or less constant body temperature even if it is very cold or very hot outside. The body temperature of cold-blooded, that is ectothermal organism, fluctuates with the environmental temperature. This means that they must somehow escape both conditions of too hot or too cold environment, and thus they hibernate, that is winter sleep, or estivate, that is summer sleep, as in case of frogs. So we are warm-blooded, that's why we do not require, but the cold-blooded animals, they will be required to say their body temperature will be equivalent to the atmospheric temperature. So if the atmospheric temperature goes low, if they are not able to sustain that, they go to sleep, and that is called as hibernation. Similarly, the frogs, they go to sleep in the summer because they cannot go through extreme heat, and that's why they go for estivation, which is the estivate, which is the summer sleep. Ectothermal and endothermal are the two kinds of things. The ectothermal is the one in which it is from the external heat, that is the outside heat. So the body temperature is equivalent to the outside heat, that is ectothermal. The term cold and warm-blooded have been substituted by poikilothermal, that is varying, and homeothermal, that is the same. So that is the two kinds of thing, that is poikilothermal, which is the varying body temperature, and homeothermal, that is the term which is same temperature throughout. Human body temperature is usually about 37 degrees Celsius in the mouth. It is about 1 degree higher in the rectum and about 1 degree lower in the armpits. Our body temperature may also show variations of 0.3 to 0.5 degrees Celsius in the course of 24 hours. It is lowest in the early morning and highest in the late afternoon. Rise in the body temperature above normal means fever and sickness, and similarly, a fall in the temperature may be dangerous. A suitable temperature of 35 to 40 degrees Celsius is essential, that is optimum temperature is essential for the normal body activity, especially for the action of enzymes. That is what we studied in the part of the digestive system, that the enzymes are going to work perfectly best when it is the temperature between 35 degrees to 40 degree temperature Celsius. The working of the enzyme is slowed down with the lowering of the temperature, while higher temperature destroys the enzymes altogether. So heat production, there are many sources of heat production in our body. Chemical reactions occurring in all our body cells, especially in the liver by the oxidation of glucose, generally produce heat. So liver is going to produce the heat because it is going to burn up the glucose. So that's why oxidation of glucose is going to take place, which is going to cause the body heat to be generated. Second is, most of the heat produced in our body comes from the activity of our muscles. Vigorous activities make our body makes you warm on a cold day and overheats you on a hot day. A small amount of heat comes from the ingestion of hot food and beverages. So yeah, these are the way the heat is produced in our body, either by the action of the liver on the glucose, oxidation of the glucose, or it is by the vigorous exercises what we are doing by the muscles. So muscle movement के कारण जो heat generate हुआ वो. And the third is by intaking hot food. So hot food and drinks will give you heat in the body. Whereas the heat loss, let's see how the heat is lost in our body. The heat is lost from our body through the following four channels. First is skin. About 85% of the body heat is lost through the skin by convection, conduction and radiation, and through evaporation of the sweat. So the body temperature is going to be decreased, or it is going to be maintained by the sweat. So sweat is going to evaporate, or there will be conduction, convection or radiation taking place through which the body heat is going to be given out. So that is the skin, which is going to lose the heat. Second is the lungs. We had learned in the respiratory system that the lungs are going, when they are respiring, that time they gives you warm air outside. So that is nothing but the heat given out by the. So heat is lost in the warm air, which is which we breathe out. This loss is in warm air is can easily be experienced by gently blowing on the back of your hand, keeping the mouth wide open. Some heat is also lost during vaporization of the water from the lungs. Third is urine and feces. These substances also eliminate the body heat, so they also cause the body heat to reduce. And finally is the food. If you are taking some cold food, okay, so ice creams and all, they give you cooling. So heat is also lost when cold food, water or cold beverages are taken into the body. The next is temperature regulation. So now we see how the body is going to regulate its temperature. So the principal heat regulating center is located in the hypothalamus, a portion of the forebrain. This part acts as a thermostat. So in our brain, just below the brain, there is a small hypothalamus. This hypothalamus acts as a thermal sensor. That means it is going to check whether the body temperature is being maintained or not. Okay. So just as says the sensor in the air conditioner that okay, we are set it at 24 degrees, so once the 24 degrees is achieved, the compressor stops functioning. And again, when the temperature goes above 24, it is going to start again and keep the room cool at the same temperature. Similarly, the hypothalamus is also going to do the similar function of maintaining the temperature of the body. When the body tends to cool below the normal temperature, it switches on or speeds up the heat producing processes, and when the body tends to get overheated, it accelerates the cooling process and switches off the heat producing processes. So that's exactly what is happening in the body, similar to the air conditioner also. So क्या है, body heat up हो गया, so it will stop all the activities which is causing the heat to produce, and it is going to give the cooling effect like more perspiration also, that the body gets cool. Similarly, if the body is getting very cool, then automatically it will process the start processes which will give a more amount of heat. Like for example, burning of the glucose, oxidation of the glucose in the liver, or maybe chattering and shivering and all, which starts taking place. So all these are the activities which can start when the hypothalamus feels that the body is getting cold. In cold weather, when outside temperature is low, blood vessels get narrowed. So this is the part of the skin which is controlling the heat of the body. So when it is very cold, okay, when it is very cold outside, what you don't want is the body heat should not go outside. Okay, you don't want to lose the body heat. And so what happens is that there is going to be constriction, there is going to be the narrowing or the constriction of the blood capillaries of the skin. The blood capillaries of the skin are going to narrow down so that the blood flow is decreased. Since the blood flow is decreased, so that's why it is not going to give away the heat. So that is called as vasoconstriction. This reduces the blood supply to the skin. As a result, there is less or loss of heat by convection, conduction and radiation, and also less loss of it through vaporization of sweat. As the blood supply to the skin is reduced, the sweat glands also secrete less sweat. This is a natural method to conserve body heat. So vasoconstriction is going to be there in cold conditions. So in cold conditions, the blood vessels are going to constrict. That's called as vasoconstriction, and that's why it will stop the flow of the, restrict the flow of the blood, and accordingly there will be less amount of perspiration, less amount of chances of the loss of the heat due to convection, conduction or radiation, and accordingly the body is going to maintain its heat inside the body. When vasoconstriction occurs, it makes a person look pale or bluish, because you can see that the blood supply has stopped, so he will look more pale or bluish because of the reduced blood supply to the skin. Simultaneously, the heat production is increased by the increased metabolic rate, and then through increased muscular activity, which is sometimes in the form of shivering. So yeah, apart from just constricting this thing, also the body will start doing some kind of activity which will, metabolic activities inside will increase, so that the heat generated by the body is increased. So this is what is done in the cold weather. Whereas in the hot weather, when outside temperature is high or when a person is engaged in strenuous physical activities, which means overproduction of heat within the body, the blood supply to the skin is increased by the dilation of the blood vessels in the skin. That is vasodilation. So by dilating the vessels, that is expanding the vessels, so that more amount of blood can flow through it, because the body has got overheated. So when it is too hot, when the body got overheated, it will like to give out more amount of blood to the cells, so that more evaporation can take place, more radiation, conduction, convection can take place. At the same time, perspiration will also be more. So the loss of water by loss of heat by evaporation of the sweat can be taken place. This results in greater loss of heat by radiation, etc., and also by vaporization of the sweat, which is now produced in a large quantity due to the rich supply of the blood to the skin. Air movements over the body help speed up the evaporation of the sweat. That is why fans which do not cool the air of the room have a cooling effect on our body. So even if the room doesn't get cooled by the fan, but when you stand under the fan, you definitely feel cool, because the evaporation of the sweat at that time helps you to cool your body. The last is the heat stroke or sunstroke, is a condition in which sweat production is unable to keep pace with the evaporation in very hot winds. This results in rise in the body temperature, fever, which may sometimes be fatal. Drinking a lot of water and taking a little more of salt in summer is a good precaution against heat stroke. So when you are not able, the body cannot cope up with the loss of the water and the heat which is being given, which is there outside, then the body suffers from a heat stroke and the body will be getting fever, or sometimes it can be even fatal. And this is by just drinking some lot of water and some good amount of salts at that time will help you to prevent from heat strokes. Yeah, so this was about the chapter skin. That's the end of the chapter. Quite a small chapter, just two parts. Very easy chapter. Mainly the most important part over here is about the different parts of the skin. That is, the figure of the skin is very important. You need to know the labelings properly and also the functions of these labelings properly. And also the vasoconstriction and vasodilation is an important part of the chapter. So overall, quite an easy and a small chapter. So that brings us to the end of the chapter skin. Thank you.